Go. Hey, everybody. Nice to have you here. I'm here this time with Daniel, our head writer, and I'm Lukas. I'm also writing and especially head of operations here at Mammoth Factory. And I'm super happy to be here because this month is the start of our new book, our new story arc, as you can see in the background, the Frostwilds. And we especially have Daniel here because he's the main genius behind it who wrote and thought most of this up. So, the cool thing about all of this is while the next 4 months will be in the Frost Wilds, as you can see, we made sure that every collection we release will stand on its own and live on its own. And I'm excited to dive into how all of that works. But before we go into that, and especially the renders and the minis for this month, which are just beautiful, I'll throw it to Daniel to just give us an introduction to the Frost Wilds.
Beneath the ice and snow, the ruins of the old world linger like mouldering bones, their secrets lost to the cold and the dark. This realm is known by its peoples as the Dying World, a land frozen in the grip of an endless winter, its past buried under ages of rime and its future bleakly uncertain. With every cycle of the twin moons, the world grows colder and darker, its warmth seeming to seep away like blood from a dying beast. None alive remember a time before winter. The remains of humanity huddled together into small, isolated clans where superstition and conflict are rife, clinging to the last few places where heat still bubbles up from beneath the earth. The night beyond these tiny bastions is full of terrors, both real and imagined, and many believe that soon the final dark will come, the deep night that swallows the world whole, freezing even the stars and sun overhead. But perhaps the slow fading of the dying world can be averted. One night, a burning star falls from the sky, its impact felt by seers and shamans across the world.
Yes. Oh, I love it. Yeah, because as we heard already, right? There's this like almost post-apocalyptic feeling, right? This ice and just keeping everything almost like suppressed, nothing can grow. And then there's this
Mhm.
point of light. Like, what drew you to this specific theme? And also, most importantly, like I'm a DM and a player at heart. So, like, what do you think people will love when they play in this setting?
So I think one of the main things that really pulled us, the whole design team, to this to some extent, is that uh, again, this post-apocalyptic feeling with the kind of the ice age kind of veneer over it, it leaves a lot of room for uh, uh, the edges of the map, so to speak, to be kind of very vague and uncertain. Right? There's
Mhm.
this kind of sense of superstition and also loss, but also this kind of vague feeling of hope to the world we're kind of trying to build. Right? There's also a general theme across this that really hammers home the kind of isolation and the like low tech level actually of the the most of the world, right? So characters who are um going through the sort of main story arcs within this group of adventures that go alongside these sets are going to be kind of from very kind of low tech sort of tribal societies where their understanding of the world is very limited and their frame of reference for what's around them is very sort of foggy. So everything is kind of a bit of an adventure, right? Leaving your home to go for just a few miles is a big adventure because it's so dangerous and so cold, right? And there's so many strange things in the woods. Um, we also get to play around with a lot of kind of prehistoric sort of themes that are really fun.
Mm. And you said hope, and the hope is right this through this star in the
Hmm.
sky. Sweet. as we can already see, is these new renders, which are fantastic. Like the
They look
team has
incredible.
spent so much time on these new renders and the details, especially on humanoids, like ah, that's so great.
Mm,
Because if we focus on these models, right? If we're now starting this new book, this Frostwilds, which will carry for the next 4 months, counting this one as well.
that's right.
What was like the design teams and the sculptors, like one of like some core philosophy that like carried you? Did you have something specific?
Yeah, I mean, so actually, the biggest thing that we really wanted to make sure when designing all the minis for this is that everything had kind of dual purpose to some extent. We don't
Mm,
want stuff to just be usable for ice settings, right? Everything is designed so it's you could take this into like the deep woods or kind of the mountains, and you can use them apart from this very kind of specific ice sort of theme,
mm,
right? So a lot of things will have this kind of very druidic and kind of prehistoric focus to some extent, but we try to make sure that things can be taken elsewhere, right?
mm,
In fact, in some cases, there are going to be minis that will, they'll have ice in one variant, like on their bodies or coming out of them, and there'll be other variants that just don't have that, right? So
mm.
very much like the Burning Dead skeletons that we did quite a while ago, right, where we have the
Yeah,
fire versions and the non-fire versions.
yeah,
For
in
those who,
book two, right? Yeah,
that's right, yeah.
yeah.
Wait, book three.
Book
Um,
three, there you go. So many releases. You're good.
Indeed,
Yeah.
yeah,
So that's, for example, I think in the next month, if I'm not mistaken, right? And there you have then two variants. So one that
that's
very
right.
much fits this whole ice theme, but then again, if you want to pull it out and you're like, this model is amazing, but my setting is actually just in a forest, maybe even a jungle, you can
Mhm.
still use them.
It can still be kind of plopped down there, right? We also made sure that we're kind of covering a wide range of creature types as well. We don't want to just do um, kind of northern barbarians for 4 months, right? Um, this first release, Frostwilds One, is very much focused on the kind of humanoids, right, that live in this environment. But we're going to be delivering kind of undead and some other things, right, that some people might associate with cold and frost. Frost giants. At certain points. Yeah,
That was already a question because we're showing this now, and there was the question: Is that a wolf dragon?
that is
Would
kind of a wolf dragon. Yeah.
Yeah, because that would actually lead us nicely, right? If we now focus
Mhm,
on this month's specific release, which the adventure for that is called the Howling Peaks, right? Which is
mhm.
this very tribal setting. And maybe because we have you here, right? And you've
Mhm.
written most of that, put your heart into it, maybe just go a bit into what is like this first installment, this introduction to this world, and what is that wolf dragon?
Right. So, um, despite the wolf dragon, so the Howling Peaks is a relatively low level adventure. It's 3 to 4. You're encouraged to level your characters up around the midway point through it. Um, So it's designed like all of these to be able to fit into an overarching sort of plot that will be packaged together at some point, um, and also to be something you can run right just as like a one shot, right, or as a trip to the north, right.
Mm,
So the Howling Peaks is actually a pretty human centric in some ways adventure. It's a very RP heavy adventure. It's all about a human conflict within a very scarce and rough and difficult environment, right? Um, so you have this area of the world which we're calling Tulun Lak, right? So this is like the Valley of the Wind, this place where there's these big mountains, right, that stretch along one side of the horizon, and they are completely covered in this storm that is almost perpetual, right? That is called the
mm,
Great Howl. Um, and the idea is that this kind of clan that lives there have kind of fallen apart over a disaster that has occurred. The notion is that they have they have a kind of bond with this Ilmamut creature, right? There's somebody in
Mhm.
their clan that rides it, right? And what's happened is through some strange kind of events, the rider has is presumed dead, and the Ilmamut is now guarding a this device, this ancient device from the world before winter, right? That's is at the top of the Howlers, the Howling Peaks. That is the tribes people of the area use as their way through the storm every so often, right?
Mhm.
These people don't know what this device really does, right? But to them, it's just something that occasionally helps them, right? And without it, they have no trade with anyone else. They're kind of going to starve pretty much. So there is this kind of conflict that has torn the tribe apart, where some of them want to kill the Ilmumut, right, and clear the way. Some of them consider it to be their totem animal, and
Mhm.
they are adamant that this can't happen. And then some are kind of, they just don't want any part of this kind of brewing civil war, right? Um,
And
and
so
so the
then as
players,
players, yeah, exactly, like the players, do you have to like navigate between those? And
yeah, the idea is it's all about reconciling between these people and choosing sides, and also figuring out what's really happened, right?
mm,
Because there's a kind of bit of a mystery about why is the Ilmamut kind of acting this way, right? What really occurred the night that the rider fell from the sky, that sort of thing, right? Um, and yeah, the idea is that if you're playing the overarching campaign, the goal is quite simple. You want to get through the Great Howl, right? You want to go further. You're chasing a falling star, and that star is on the other side of this storm.
mhm.
So you've got to go through it. And if you've got to go through it, you've got to get help from this clan. And if you want them
Because
to
you're
help you,
like you're
you
going
need to
through
help them.
tribal territory, and so
Yeah.
and then within the clan, like then you decide to either like join the people who want to just like kill
Yeah.
this spirit beast, or like is there a non-lethal way to get through there, or is
Yeah,
that
there
unlikely?
the idea is there are multiple ways that you can finish this adventure. So there's the one side that is, more kind of pragmatic, whereas the other is more sort of spiritually kind of based. And they both want very different things. They both don't understand the situation fully, right? Um, so a part of the kind of challenge is figuring out what's happening and trying to kind of reconcile these two sides. But yeah, there is a way to resolve it non-violently, right? So I mean, I don't know how spoilery we want to get here, actually.
I
um
don't think so at all. I think we
yeah.
can, yeah, I think we can already continue because I think the main thing would be nice to show off maybe as a teaser is there just is maybe one specific either like yeah encounter or mini or prop that you think like ooh, that's one thing you really want to focus on that you're excited for?
Um, there's a few, to be honest, but I really love that we have this one sequence that is this ambush that goes on a ice lake, right? Um, with this kind of
Mm.
ancient obelisk of one of the kind of the pre-winter civilizations, like jutting up through the ice, and basically during this encounter, the enemies there, they have bone ice skates, right? So they basically they try and encircle you, and then one a kind of expel caster off screen or just out of view, slams down on the ice and causes the bits they've weakened to collapse, right? So you have to stay very mobile, or you're going to end up going in the drink, right? It's a really cool fight with also a lot of different options for ending it. Um,
Mhm.
there's also the final battle, which is a very much a puzzle fight. It's very much about stealthing around the ill moment and trying to figure out what's going on.
Yeah, I think for
Or you can
that
just
we even have the map open, right? We have
we do.
that storm gate there, which is this magical devices. So it's
Mhm.
like it's a low tech setting,
Yes.
but there are still some remnants of
Yes.
past
Yeah.
technology.
Yeah, that's the idea. The people don't necessarily know what they are or who put them there, but there are these kind of ancient devices that hint at a much more advanced time before everything kind of collapsed during the onset of winter.
Mhm. Maybe the last thing before, let's see if there's still a couple of questions in the chat
Mhm.
is let's just have a look at some of the bear riders because my God, they're dire bears and people are riding them.
They are really cool. Yeah.
Do you like, I know you're in the writing team, but you also like come up with concepts for
Hmm.
um, how they were created, and they're also the bear pubs and everything. Like, was there some like specific, yeah, design mentality going in there, or just something you're super proud
For the
of?
bears
Yeah.
specifically, so I think the bears. The thing we wanted to do most with those was firstly we wanted them to really look like dire prehistoric bears, right? We wanted them to make sure they looked like they can take a lot of punishment. So giving them all these battle scars and these kind of weapons stuck in them, that stuff really worked, and it also makes each mini a little unique, right? They're not just a unit of the same thing; they have these cool different battle scars. I think the Ilmamut also is a really nice design. In general, it's basically the the team kind of thinking, well, in a perpetual winter world, what is the dragon equivalent, right? What is something like that that also is suited for a lower level adventure? And I
Mm,
think it just like it ended up looking really cool.
yeah. Yeah, and I think right that needs some special shout out also for the
Mm.
sculptors, right? Who were the people involved? Like you're more on the sculpting side
Oh,
than I am.
so I mean, we have obviously David, we our head sculptor. We have Kat, who is new to the team, and Gabriel, who is also new. Um, and they worked on various stuff. We also have Elio, who did like a lot of the humanoid stuff, as well as San, who uh, did some of the heroes. And they've just done an amazing job. Like, I mean,
Mm,
this stuff is incredible. Um, I think it's yeah, it's a very design wise, it was a very interesting challenge to take stuff that is kind of a little found, rooted in reality, right?
mhm,
Bears and wolfy stuff and people, right? And making them look, just really cool and interesting, basically.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I think before, I think we can just already slowly end it while we just look at some of the beautiful models that were made. Is I seen that we have um, Dav Brand himself in the chat, which is like the one of the heads of Mammoth, and he was also involved in the story, right?
he was.
Yeah.
He actually play tested the whole thing as well.
Ooh.
He's run through this before anyone else.
Oh yeah, that's the other side, right? That all of these are
Hmm.
already being play tested in advance live settings, so they're actually ready to go and ready to play.
Yeah. Mm.
Nice. Um, I'll just see if there are a couple of specific questions. One very
Go
important
for it.
thing is this murder hobo proof?
Nothing is murder hobo proof, truly, but it's murder hobo proof enough. You could kill your way through it, but like you'd have a lot of trouble doing so. Um,
Mm,
you start off at level 3 in this, and there are a few encounters where if you really want to get what you need to make your way through the storm by just killing your way through everything, you've got a real fight on your hands.
mm.
Like a really, really nasty fight on your hands. Um,
And then for maybe the last thing to end things on, I think that's one image we haven't shown yet. Maybe you can throw it up, which is we have as a terrain piece the Stormgate itself. It's so hard to, at
mm,
least for me, to sometimes know who's working on things. I think that one was made by Pedro. Is that correct?
Pedro, right? Yeah. Yeah, and he
Yeah.
did a great job. Like this stuff looks amazing, actually. And it's there might be other pieces a little like this along
Mm.
the course of this whole bunch of sets. There might even be some characters with this kind of aesthetic sort of on them as well. But this is a great piece. Like it's come out so well. It's a little inspired by has anyone seen Contact?
Yeah, and I can already see, like, if you paint
Mm,
that with, like, light effects and everything, this could be great.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, with that, we're super excited when in the next couple of days the release drops, and just to see what people make of it, see you print it, paint it. When you play these things, we're already always excited to hear your stories and what you make with what we give you. And with that, I think have a nice Friday, have a nice weekend, and welcome to the Frostwilds.
See you around, people.
Bye bye.